Welcome back to the Beat the Path podcast. I'm your host, Ross Palmer. On this show, we showcase unusual success stories because unusual times call for unusual success stories. My guest today is Ben Allman, one of the creators of forabilities.org, a nonprofit organization that helps differently abled people once they graduate school. Now, if you didn't know this, people who are differently abled often face tremendous problems once they're out of the school system, and there's no real support network for them of any kind. And that's where Ben comes in. Now, the point of this show is to broaden our definition of success. It's not all about the money, people. It's about being able to go to bed at night feeling fulfilled. It's about having work that brings you joy and meaning and adding meaning to your life and the lives of others. And with that definition, Ben is one of the most successful people I know. He does incredibly noble, brave work, and it's made him so deeply fulfilled and happy. I think you're going to get so much positivity out of this episode, and it's just one of those feel-good stories that'll give you some hope and faith in humanity again. So with that, allow me to introduce my next guest, Ben Allman. All right, joining me here on the podcast today is Benjamin Franklin Allman. Very patriotic middle name.
There you go.
Is that your real middle name?
No, it's not.
So it's almost like it's something that I just made up right now because your name is
Ben.
It's
something you made up right on the spot. Yeah, just out of nowhere, coming out of left field.
Well,
it's as if I've never heard that one before.
That's not very patriotic of you, Ben. Anyways, so. Benjamin Non-Franklin Allman is here.
There you go.
I brought him here today because he has a different kind of success story. And one of the most important things I want to do with this show is to showcase all different ways that we can define success. And I think Ben has found a really cool path that is something really interesting, and it just feels good to talk about. So I really wanted to bring you on the show today. So how are you, man? Tell us a little bit about who you are and what you're up to.
Well, I'm doing good. Thank you, first and foremost, for thinking of me with what you do. I absolutely love your podcast and all the stuff you do. As you know, Ross, success is what you kind of define it to be, right? And that's kind of what you're talking about with your show. So it is an honor and a privilege for me to be on here and for you to think of me. So thank you.
Well, thank you for joining me. So yeah, let's tell everybody what it is what you've been up to.
Long story short, after kind of journeying through my 20s and not really knowing what in God's name I was doing with my life, through kind of a variety of trial and error, a lot of self-discovery and working things out. I found kind of a path that really worked for me. I helped start up a nonprofit organization that's based out of here in Centennial, Colorado. We provide services and community supports for individuals with different abilities, helping them with employment, helping them with community inclusion, those types of things. I work with a couple families. Been doing it for about 2.5 years. Started with 3 people. We're up to 6 now.
Wow.
It's a lot of fun. Lot of stuff to do. Kind of a grassroots effort to, improve our community.
Sounds awesome. So how did you get into this line of work?
I originally went to school and college. I wanted to be a teacher. And then I became a teacher and realized I didn't really want to be a teacher.
No shade on all of the teachers out there, right? Nothing but love, I'm sure.
It was one of those things. Well, I think it's one of those things where I thought I wanted something at age 22, and then at age 28, I realized I wanted something different. So it wasn't necessarily that, teaching was bad. It's just I got to a place with it, and it wasn't going to be sustainable for me. I couldn't see myself doing it for 30 years. But just because it was time to leave that profession didn't mean I had to say goodbye to everything. I worked as a special education teacher. And through that work kind of led me to the nonprofit stuff that I've been doing. Through my teaching work, I was able to make connections with people and families who had students with different abilities. So that's where my network kind of started. And then just staying in contact with people as we're going, being involved in Special Olympics. I'll rep the shirt right there. And just kind of volunteering time for that and staying connected is really kind of how this was built. I enjoyed parts of teaching. What I really am good at is helping people. And one thing I discovered as a teacher is that wasn't necessarily what I was doing on a day-to-day basis. And so it's working with this nonprofit and helping them kind of build it from the ground up, so that it's sustainable for the guys that I worked with as they become adults and, try and find their place in the world has been incredibly rewarding. You define, my success is defined in what they do, not necessarily what I do. So you have to kind of think about it in a different way with that. But it is work worth doing. It is work that is enjoyable. And I work with some of the most awesome people on the planet, man. They're happy to be alive. They're just trying to get their part. And, like I said, I like helping people. That's what I discovered as a teacher, is that I like helping people. That was kind of the base of it. So if I could find a way to where I could constantly be helping people in my day-to-day, that's what I wanted my profession to do. And here we are.
Wow, that's awesome. I mean, such a great thing. I mean, I've known you, obviously. We've gone to high school together, so I've known Ben since forever.
Yeah.
And I have seen that you've been, we go way back. I have seen how, I don't want to say happy or fulfilled, but something like happy or fulfilled you have become doing this new line of work. I mean, there's a different energy about you these days and what you're doing, the stuff you're posting on social media. You can kind of feel that it's really in your lane, if that makes sense.
Definitely in my lane. I think that's kind of, that is a good way to describe me, Ross. I stay in my lane. I know what I'm good at, and I blow it out, man. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. I don't try and be something I'm not.
Well, I do, and it's not working out great for me. Stay down, man. Stay down. Anyway. But yeah, so when you say early stages of this startup, what are we? Where did the genesis for this idea come from? Because the organization is called For Abilities, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. For Abilities. We are a not-for-profit organization. Forabilities.org. That's our website if you want to check it out. Building it from the ground up. So I'll take kind of the core group of guys that I started with. I knew them obviously as their high school teacher.
Okay.
And I knew that as their high school teacher, we created this wonderful experience where they had an outstanding, they had everything that you could want in a high school. We created sports leagues. We created, classrooms that were designed to be as identical as possible to the general population, and just trying to level the playing field. And
when you say gen population, it sounds like a prison documentary. Is that the technical
That's one way to look at
term?
public education, I suppose.
They're going out into gen
right,
pop?
So, right. Yeah, definitely a teacher term. A teacher term.
No,
the guys I work with, need that level of support. So that's kind of where it started. The genesis of that was, they had this support ages 14 to 18. But then when they get out of school and when they get out of high school, all of a sudden there's nothing left. When you and I graduated high school, we had a plan. We were going to college, it was, getting scholarships and working towards that next level of academia. Mm-hmm. My guys don't have that. They very much kind of have the rug pulled out from underneath them, so to speak. They have this wonderful experience in high school and it's great. But then the cold reality hits them before it hits anybody else in terms of you got to get a job. All your friends have moved away, which was something, that you never really realized. So it was kind of realizing what they were having to go through, and feeling that the work that I had done as their high school teacher wasn't done. So that's what led to this effort. And then knowing the families that I know them and working with them in Special Olympics, I can't tell you the value that I get in volunteering my time for Special Olympics. It's coaching and doing sports in a whole nother way. Go ahead.
Would you say that the system, I mean, there's really nothing in place for these people when they graduate? There's no other programs? I mean, is this just like a blank canvas? Or are there certain things, people trying to help them once they graduate?
There are definitely programs out there, but you have to know how to get there.
Okay.
And that's really the disconnect with the system, is that too often that's where the crack is. Those systems are available and those things are available, but there's a lot of factors that come into it. You have families who are grieving and who are working through their processes of realizing that their son or daughter has a different life that they may have dreamed or wanted them to have. So you have that aspect. Then you have the societal factors. I'll give you an example. One of my guys is working on trying to get his driver's license right now. He can drive. I have sat in a car with him. He knows what a stop sign is. He knows how to yield. I California roll through everything. Like, he stops and will wait and will do, like, he follows the rules, right? The test is written in such a way that the language of the test is such a barrier for him that he can't get through the test. So he physically can do it, but because the language barrier is there, he struggles. So that's really where the disconnect is. And you can't ask someone and, like, that's where you need people like me who are used to building support and helping support, and come in and try and fill those gaps. Because there are things that are slanted against them. And so that's kind of, what my job is, or how I kind of see it. I just try and level the playing field for my guys.
So there's just like an entire world that we all take for granted, that you and I take for granted, things that we see as easy. Sure. Well, or maybe not even easy, like getting a job. Nobody sees these things as easy, or picking a career. But there's a whole additional level that makes normal things a monumental challenge, right?
Absolutely.
So
absolutely.
When did you first
it's amazing
start becoming aware of that?
Sorry, go ahead.
When did you become aware of this difference between the general population and...
Right. It was through my work as a special education teacher. You start to, when you put yourself in someone else's shoes, who hasn't necessarily had, for lack of a better term, the privilege that I had growing up, you see the world in a different way. And that's when you see the need for things.
Fascinating. So you're teaching, you want to do something else. You want to help people in a more direct way. Is this something that you are approaching families, or are families approaching you? How did you get this off the ground? The first couple clients or students, or?
It more so was just, I called one of the parents of one of the guys that I was working with one day, just kind of out of the blue, just to check in with them and see how they were doing. My man Colin had graduated. He had been graduated, I think, about 2 years. And I just called mom to see how he was. He's one of my favorite guys, man. I mean, a runner can run and run and run and run and run. It's just so cool. But it was kind of through that conversation with his mom where she was just like, he's struggling. And I saw a picture of him. He was overweight. He wasn't the happy-go-lucky kid that I knew. And it was kind of, eye-opening just to kind of see, like, man, he could use some help. And then when you realize that, you had put all these things in place for him to be successful, and then the second he turns 18, that those things then go away, that's part of that's on me as his teacher, and not, billing that. So it's finishing the work. And this is lifelong work, man. I plan on being with these guys forever. They're good people. Positive energy through and through, and we have an absolute blast every day.
Did you know when you were teaching that there was this cliff that everybody was walking off when they were 18 years old? Or did you not know until that moment, 2 years after he graduated?
I thought, I was very naive, Ross. I thought everybody went to college. I thought everybody, if they didn't go to college, they got a job right out of school, and they had their
a job that
rolling.
Pays well enough. Like our parents' generation, They're like, I worked part-time in the cafeteria to pay my way through college. And it's like, do you have any idea? College is $80,000 a year now. Ain't nobody working part-time at anything to pay for anything. So, I mean, it's horrified when I think of the stress and all of the problems that I had trying to get up and running. I moved to a foreign country, but trying to get a job. And I guess that's somewhat comparable, like a language barrier of not being able to speak a language in a foreign country and needing to speak that language to get jobs. I mean, I remember sitting in a cafe applying to job after job after job for months and got nowhere. So it's easy to see how much harder all of that could be. And
Right.
sad.
Some people just need
Tragic.
a little bit,
Yeah.
like, well, I have a guy who I just started working with before the pandemic who all he really needed was someone to help him build out a resume.
Right.
And then we went from there. Now, once COVID happened and the world kind of completely changed, that all blew up. But it's little things like that just slight adjustments can go a really long way for people.
Yep. So you're trying to provide support. So what does that look like? What does a typical day look like? How often are you with do you refer to them as clients, or what is the relationship?
We're all colleagues. That's
Okay.
kind of I'm a colleague. They're a colleague.
Okay.
It's not
Got
this is when I worked for an agency before, in between public education and then starting this nonprofit. I worked for an agency where it was a client kind of provider type of relationship. And this isn't, I feel like that's demeaning to them.
Okay. Yeah.
And it's not in the spirit of working together and creating something. You know what I'm saying?
It's more of a collaborative.
Like I'm there to help them out. Yeah, we're working together. They don't work for me. I don't work for them. We're working for just because it's their goal doesn't mean that we're not working together. So we call each other clients. Okay. Or I'm sorry. We call each other colleagues.
Roundabout way.
Yeah, there you go. And we base everything off of individual need. Before the pandemic, I was out in the community with my guys. Every single one of my guys had a job, whether it was working at a gym, working doing security for sporting events, working at a movie theater. I'm trying to think what else.
I think a pizza parlor, right?
Amazon warehouse. Yep. We have another guy working there. When the pandemic hit and we all went under, all my guys lost their work, unfortunately.
Heartbreaking.
They are the first. It's always the minorities and the people kind of on the bottom rung, unfortunately,
Right.
for lack of a better term, who kind of get housed with that. And that's what happened.
Right.
My guy Josh lost his job at Amazon because they cut warehouse workers. My guy Colin lost his job at the movie tavern because they closed.
Right.
My guy Ryan wasn't able to work security at a Rockies game all summer, which was devastating. And my guy Sean worked at a gym, and the gym closed, and he hasn't felt comfortable going back. So what started as kind of being out in the community 100%, we really had to shift kind of how we take care of people, and my support and what I do has changed. Instead of making sure they get to work and everything's okay. Now it's very much, we're on Zoom 85% of the week, when we do spend time together.
I was going to ask you, because you can't get together face to face anymore.
We have started, so about 6 weeks ago, we started reintroducing kind of ourselves back into the community, doing a variety of things, because there are safe things that you can do. What we worked on before we went out was a variety of procedures and safety things and protocols that we could do for all of our guys to be safe. We do have some medically fragile colleagues within our group who have some respiratory issues, who have some physical needs. So we definitely want to keep that in mind. It's a requirement. All of us wear masks when we're together. We all wear masks, and we all hand sanitize like crazy. So those are kind of the general ground rules. Everything that we do out in the community is outside. We've been really blessed because the weather's been great. All my guys are into golf. I've shared those stories with you.
And I think it's wonderful
they're all going out for
seeing them at the driving range.
Spring. It's so great. Man.
It'll melt your heart if you see some of these videos. You would have to have a heart made of stone not to feel something watching some of these videos. So, I
Yeah.
mean, well, it's good that you're getting back out there
Yeah, we
again.
can do a little bit of stuff, but not a lot. Not a lot. Not a lot.
So describe to me a pre-COVID typical day, and then, or session, or whatever you want to call, however it's broken down, and then a post-COVID typical day.
So before COVID, I was picking my guys up and getting them to work in the mornings, and then we would, depending on who I worked with, we'd either have lunch together, varying the day. Mornings were work and volunteer time, and then afternoons were physical fitness or whatever else we needed to get done, errands, those types of things. A lot of what I would do would be, especially in the afternoon, is kind of taxi service stuff, for, transportation, getting them to and from places. And then they go and do the buy-in, and then they go and the whole point of it is to be engaged in your community from an employment and professional standpoint, and then have a presence that is personal. So we would go to the gym. They would all go work out kind of on their own, and those were kind of typical. And then we take trips. My guys would hook up with what's called the Wayfaring Band, which does a bunch of trips for individuals with different abilities. They go everywhere. So those things would kind of ebb and weave throughout the deal. Now, in the COVID world, everything we do, like I said, 85% of what we do is over Zoom. We meet as a group every morning to do yoga or to go running. Those are your two options in the morning. You can get together and do yoga
treadmill?
by our wonderful yoga instructor. Yeah. No, or you can go running out in the community. We have some people who will go. They work in the community and they'll go. We have a 5K marked out in our neighborhood, and they'll go run that. So those are your two options. Our guys, everybody gets a choice in the morning. You can either, if you're tired and you just want to do some stretching, or do some yoga. If you feel good and the weather's nice, you can go some run.
They're starting their day with a 5K.
That I work with.
That's insane.
Yes. Well, they're machines, man. 4 of the guys that I work with are from Buffalo, New York. So out here in Colorado, it gets very cold. To them, it's nothing. It could be snowing, and they will go and run. They're crazy, man.
That's truly impressive. I mean,
crazy.
I can't even do anything without 2 French presses full of coffee. So the idea of waking up in the cold and running a 5K, that's impressive.
Right. So that's the morning, and then we meet over Zoom kind of individually with stuff, and I run some fitness for other guys who don't necessarily do running as well throughout the day, kind of pickpocketed. It depends on, what we're doing. If we're working on employment stuff and filling out job applications, and kind of doing those job coaching types of services, those can take, anywhere between 60 and 90 minutes. Fitness with me is, what they want. They all have a fitness goal. Some of them, want to burn 500 calories. Others want to do 10,000 steps in a session. So we individualize it, but they're spending time with me throughout the day, along with a couple of other people that we have working with our group.
Okay, that's wonderful. So what's the plan of attack for what types of work? I mean, it would be laughable if it wasn't so tragic that all of the jobs they had, or all of the industries like check that are shut down by COVID. I mean, that's horrible. So given that there are so few physical jobs, I guess you could do, what type of direction are you looking in for work?
Nice thing about the guys that I work with is it doesn't matter what the work is. They just want to work. It's about the dignity of an assignment. It's not necessarily about a paycheck.
Right.
So the work doesn't necessarily have to be paid employment. I would like it to be paid employment because I believe that, I don't believe in free labor. I don't feel like that's something that should be happening. With that being said, in times of crisis and in times of need, a lot of things are what needed are volunteer types of jobs. And that's all that my guys have signed up for right now. Okay. They volunteer at the Parks Department to do trash pickup. They volunteer with Volunteers of America doing Meals on Wheels, delivering meals to people every Friday. We just started that up about 3 weeks ago. So it's just constantly giving back and constantly giving forward because the opportunities will arise. What we try and do is keep everybody active. We don't want gaps on a resume. It looks really bad if you had a job in 2016, but then you quit and you didn't start doing anything until 2020. So even if they don't have work, as long as we keep them in a volunteer opportunity, we feel like we're keeping them active and engaged. And right now, it's really been up to the individual and what they feel comfortable with. The Denver Broncos, for instance, have started playing football again, and fans are allowed into the stadiums, which means one of my guys, Ryan, can start doing security again. Now, he didn't feel comfortable doing it the first week that they had there.
Okay.
What was awesome about the company that he worked for is they brought him in, they walked him. It's Argus. Argus is the security company that does all the stuff for pro sports here in Denver. They walked him through everything. They showed him where he was going to be. They talked to him about the protocols that he was going to go through. They worked him through the job while we also had a job coach there with him, explaining anything to him that he didn't understand. Ryan's worked every Bronco game since, so he's his integration started back. We have other guys who haven't felt comfortable working, and so it's fine. All right, you don't have to work, but we got to find you something, because we're not going to sit at home and we're not going to watch TV. We're not going to just check Twitter all day. We gotta have some type of value. We got to add something to the community, because that is really in the spirit of what we want to do. Everybody has value
it's safe to say
in this world.
I think it's safe to say that you and your colleagues are doing more during this quarantine than 99% of all other people. How many people are sitting on their couch right now watching 8 hours of Netflix a day? Well, you're out there hustling, running, volunteering. I mean, are you paying attention, listeners?
Nice
are you hearing this?
That's very nice of you to say. I don't know how you could sit still during this, man. I mean, life. Yeah. I hate to quote a movie that we love,
I can tell you how you can sit still. I can show you how to sit still during quarantine if you really want to know.
Man, can't do that. You sit still, you die. You got to go live. The world is too short. And my guys, I can't tell you, Ross, if you can do some volunteering with Special Olympics, if you can spend some time with the guys that I work with on a day-to-day, you're going to understand a different level of success. My guys can't define their life monetarily. It's never going to be about what's in their bank account. What their life is about having fun and enjoying every day like it's your last. And they get more out of a day than I ever in my life could imagine that I could have ever do. So I get more from them than it really is anything else,
Yeah, I do. Well, I only know from witnessing you from afar. That's how I know, because I see that. Like I said, I see that you're fulfilled. There's a sense of I think there's a sense of peace that a lot of people don't realize that comes with doing truly good, meaningful work. I mean, for the great majority of people, they're just trying to collect a paycheck or collect a bigger paycheck or scam people out of $5,000, as we have joked about on numerous occasions. It's just all about more. But at the end of the day, how many people truly can say that they feel good about what they're doing? I made a post about it the other day about ethical marketing or trying to sell something. You could sell things that hurt people. You can work for companies that hurt people. You could have a fine career at a tobacco company or something like that. But at the end of the day, at the end of your life, you don't have any of that human factor. And now you're basically drowning in that human factor. Your whole life is the human factor, which is just awesome as a different perspective.
I appreciate that. I hope I don't come off as incredibly self-righteous, because I don't mean to be. I didn't like my life as a teacher. I hated who I was. I was grumpy. I was overweight. I was angry. I didn't want to be angry, but I really liked parts of teaching. So my self-discovery when I quit, and when I decided to change careers, really was about, all right, what do I really like to do? What do I not like to do? And how can I get as much of one thing and as little of the other? Nothing's ever perfect, but I am incredibly lucky that I have found great people who allow me and help me kind of do what I like to do on a daily basis. So it's good.
Yeah.
It's good. It's very lucky.
Obviously, you were a football player in high school. I think physical fitness has always been an important part of your life. You've done coaching. You've also been in the gym helping people with weight training. So whose idea was it your idea to bring physical fitness into the program, and why?
Oh, no. It's in the spirit of Special Olympics and all my guys. Okay. All the guys that I work with, all my colleagues, they're all about competing. They love to compete. They love, and they love the kind of the team aspect. So it was centered around that. It was already kind of built in. And now I have taken that and tried to put my own spin on it, and to do the research, and to provide good fitness when it is my turn to teach those guys fitness and to run them through fitness. A lot of what I do with them now is more just kind of, hey, I saw this on the internet. You want to check this out? I'm not teaching in sort of the sense of more kind of guiding and kind of teaching guys and helping them build what they want to build. When they're with our organization, they have employment goals and then they have personal goals. And all those personal goals, there is a physical fitness element to it. And there's mindfulness to it. Hey, one of the best things that we've done as a group has added yoga during this COVID time. I can't tell you what 30 to 45 minutes of mindfulness in the morning does.
I mean, I would love to do that if I wasn't so lazy. You know how incredible that would be to start each day with 40 minutes of yoga. Everybody knows that's good.
It's awesome.
And you're doing that too. So is this 5 days a week?
Yes.
Okay. Yep. So weekends are off generally, or do you work weekends too?
We all talk throughout the weekends, but there is nothing's formal on the weekends. Nothing's formal on the weekends. But there's constant communication. Like I said, it's really, I think in the traditional sense, you could say I'm on call, but I'm not on call, man. I mean, we just talk. We're colleagues. We're friends. They're my friends. And there are things that I help them out with, and there are things that they help me out with, and we all just kind of get along.
That's awesome.
There are worse ways to make a living. That's for sure.
Sure. Well, not many people get to go out and golf for a living. In some roundabout way, you're living the dream.
Yeah, man. I get paid to go golfing with my dudes.
Paid to get out there.
It ain't a bad deal. Not a bad deal.
How bad could that be? So
you'd think my short game would improve, but it hasn't.
Yeah, exactly. You wouldn't know it from watching him play, but he swears he's out there practicing every day. So, we talked about when this whole thing started, you said, okay, somebody 2 years out of high school, overweight, depressed, and you come into the picture. So what kind of transformations have you seen so far?
Oh, you can never underestimate the value of dignity, personal dignity through accomplishment. Whether it's a job or whether it's in the gym, we all need goals, and we all need to strive to those goals. And sometimes people need help along the way. I've seen independence that has grown from my guys. I've seen my guys advocate for themselves. I've seen them, grow up and become young men and women. It's really cool to kind of help foster that process, and also, to kind of, it is nice to know that I've been able to come in and help them along a difficult transition. I feel like high school can be challenging for people. I also feel like college and outright out of high school can be challenging for people. It's a heck of an adjustment, and some people are built for it, and some people aren't. And some of us need help along the way, and this has been my way to kind of give that back. So it's really good. It's really good.
That's just wonderful. So what is your goal with the organization? I mean, I know that this is such a personal thing. You're spending so much personal time, and it's really the one-on-one care that is the difference. At the same time, 4Abilities is growing year over year. So what's the goal, or what does the future look like? What do you have targets, or is it just we'll take on new colleagues as they show up, or?
So, interesting point. We will take colleagues and new colleagues within our organization as kind of needed, but we will grow it in such a way that it doesn't hurt the organization. This is based and founded. The idea of this is to turn this over to the colleagues and let them kind of run it when moms and dads are no longer with us. So that is the overall goal. It's not to necessarily blow it out and expand it, but to be kind of a model. Families in Colorado and families across the nation can set things up like an organization like For Abilities that allows you to access your Medicaid dollars so that those things can then help you pay for supports and help you get someone like me to help you get involved in the community. Those things are available in there. So that's kind of the overarching goal, is just to be the best model for this kind of organization that we can be. That's kind of where we build it, and then grow it as we go. Nobody's in this to make money. We're in this to create a sustainable life for people.
Sure.
And you don't necessarily do that by bringing people in. You do that by being a model. So that's kind of the big kind of expansion thing, or whatever, kind of a vision. We want to be a model. We don't want to expand. The short-term goal is to get all my guys employed again. That's the goal.
Yep.
We are at a place with the pandemic and everything that, I know there are surges happening all over the place. So we have our fingers crossed that it's just kind of this winter surge, this fall surge that everybody has kind of talked about, and we're hoping that numbers will kind of die down again, and that people will wear a fucking mask, for God's sakes. Excuse my language. Wear a mask. Anyway, so the goal is in the start of next year, we're hoping that everybody can get back to maybe not full-time employment, but at least part-time employment for everybody, and maintaining those connections with the community. So that's the short-term goal. The long-term goal is, an ideal world, Ross, I would work my way out of a job. That would be an ideal world. An ideal world would be my guys can maximize their independence, right, to a point where they don't need me to kind of be with them. That they can just kind of do those things on the way. With that being said, I'm with these guys for life.
I was going to ask.
It is a commitment. Yeah.
It's an open-ended conversation.
Yes.
And I know how much you care about everybody. They deserve it. And I don't mean to be self-righteous, and I certainly don't want to go there. But they are people who are worth, who need help and deserve help. And as long as I can do that, I will be there. And again, the goal and the hope is that I can work my way out of a job to where they don't need me, to where, instead of me taking them to a football game so they can work, we're sitting in the stands having a beer, watching it together, man. That would be the goal. Cause I'm with these guys to the end of the line, baby. That is awesome, man. So good. Thanks. So what advice would you have in case, let's say, a parent of somebody with different abilities is watching this, maybe somebody who has a kid in high school right now, what advice would you have for them for these transitions?
Learn how to access your Medicaid.
Okay.
You have rights as an individual with different abilities. Everybody has those rights, and you have rights to Medicaid dollars and Social Security dollars. Those are there for a reason. Guys like you and I pay taxes so that these guys can have access to those funds. So go get it and go fight for it. And if you don't know who to talk to, start with your state representative and go from there. And pound the door, because that money is out there, and those guys have a right to it. Those guys have a right to it to live a free life. This is why we have social safety nets. This is the point of it. Right. So go and fight for it, because nobody's going to give it to you. And another thing too, as a teacher, I was never really given formal training on how to help or point people in the right direction. And if I was Ross, it didn't stick. Because that clearly was a disconnect. Now, there are some cases, and I do know of cases, where people have been incredibly successful, where the system has worked well. The key thing there, and the key variable, is the families knew how to access Medicaid.
And how did they know?
They knew how to access Social Security.
Is this information out there? I mean, you're kind of alluding to the idea that it's difficult.
Absolutely. The information's on Google. Also within the community of people with different abilities, asking and talking and networking. Like I said, our organization has met with our state representative, Jason Crow, who was willing to meet with us and sit down and talk with us. So you start there. The gal that I work with, her name is Kelly. Kelly is incredibly awesome. Kelly will go and find a grant for whenever we need money for anything. She knows how to do that. So it's networking, and it's finding people through social media. And it's finding people, at conventions, the ACLU convention that we went to last winter, in December, those types of things. Hit the internet, Medicaid, Social Security. Those are the things you want to look for.
Okay. And if somebody reaches out via forabilities.org, is this something that you help people with as well?
Absolutely. Our contact information is on our website. We are building our website. Our colleagues are helping us build our website. And if you know anything about our colleagues, sometimes it takes a little time to get there, but we've got it. We've got the base website up there with contact information. You can also check us out on Instagram. And we have a Twitter, and we have a Facebook, but most of our social stuff is through Instagram.
So yeah, if you're out there and you know anybody who might benefit from that kind of information, please share this conversation. Absolutely. I would say, because I mean, I want to help you with what you're trying to do, because it's so refreshing. It's such a refreshing change of being. Your priorities are vastly different. I was
really honored that you.
A lot of other people,
I was really honored that you thought of me, man. Of course, I mean, you got Grammy Award winners on the air. You got all these people. And then you bring me on. He's gonna text me.
Scott's gonna text me, and he's gonna be like, "What the fuck, man?" He's like, "You told me this was exclusive." I'm like, "No. I said unusual. I didn't say." No, just kidding. Just kidding. It's a joke. It'll never happen. So we've dealt a little bit with. I mean, obviously, there's an intrinsic disadvantage in that there are things that have to be done. Filling out tests, paperwork, stuff that we all hate. I mean, taxes, there are things that nobody knows how to do from school. Financial planning, any of this stuff isn't taught in public schools. So there's that sort of like intrinsic disadvantage, which we kind of touched on. But to what degree, is there any kind of prejudice that you've experienced, or any sort of like people actively working against people with different abilities, or anything that you've noticed, or something that you'd like to touch on that really isn't out in the open that probably should be about these issues?
So two things there. One, discrimination is discrimination.
Yes.
Our guys, we see it all the time. Constantly people think about what my colleagues can't do, as opposed to what they can do.
Yeah.
And so it's about trying to flip that stereotype. It has been my experience, the more we kind of, and that's another reason why you have a guy like me around, is I can kind of be that intermediary when there is a communication breakdown, when it's clear that someone is not understanding what we're trying to build here, or what we're trying to do. So that kind of helps. There is discrimination. I mean, people definitely look at my colleagues in a certain light. They were lucky enough that they grew up with unified sports in their high schools, which has really been a good grassroots effort, that they at least their population of kids that they went to high school with was much more accepting of them than I would say. I mean, I had no idea when we were in school that there was anybody other than us in the school. I really didn't. And these guys didn't experience that. They grew up in a much more inclusive environment. That doesn't mean to say that they don't face discrimination. It definitely can be a challenge for them. The biggest thing that we can correct, and that I can correct, is when we run into situations where it's not, the ignorance of what is needed isn't on purpose. Like my guys aren't being discriminated against because of who they are. It's just because people haven't thought of it. So that's another place where I can step in. For instance, my guy who worked for Amazon for a couple months. Amazon is such a big company that when you try and talk to someone in their human resources department, it takes you about 3 weeks to get to an actual person.
Dear God.
When I'm talking to a robot, and I'm trying to explain to a robot accommodations that my guy Josh needs because he can't fit their quota system because he moves physically slower than the average person, it took us a while to kind of get that going. However, once we were able to make that connection, things run a lot smoother. So there's outright discrimination, and then there are things underlying the surface that you can kind of fix and tweak. So we try and focus on the things that we can fix and tweak.
Of course.
And you deal with discrimination how everyone is supposed to deal with discrimination. I mean, you ignore it to a point, and you stand up against it when you absolutely have to.
That makes sense. So does Jeff Bezos come out of this looking good or bad?
Not great. He was doing okay. He was doing okay. To be continued, I would say on that. Hopefully, we can get my guy back working.
Okay. Fair enough.
Hopefully, Jeff will hire my guy back. I think he's got enough change to do it.
Yeah, right. That has never been an issue, I don't think. It's never been a lack of resources. But when you're talking about a robot, you could be talking about Jeff himself. Are we sure he's not?
Very fair.
Are we sure? Yeah, there's a drone that'll answer your questions, I'm sure.
Yeah. I got to be quiet now.
Let's go. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's like, not anymore. Blacklist. We were just about to do it. All right. So let's do a couple questions. So do you personally, what would you say drives you now?
We had a shared teacher when we were younger who told us that if it's burning in your heart and the flame is ignited, that you should kind of follow that. It all comes back to that. I enjoy waking up, loving what I'm doing. And, Ross, everything also, too, comes back to I wouldn't be anywhere if I didn't have my better half and my lovely wife. I think it's those two factors. It's helping my guys out who need it, and also doing my very best to be the best, partner and husband that I can be.
Yep, that makes sense. So for anybody who wants to start on this path, any advice? Maybe there's somebody who's a little bit younger, people who who are seeing this or who feel a calling to do this. What recommendation would you give? Or where to start?
Work. Well, yeah, there is work worth doing out there. It is, and we are in a weird situation. But there is work worth doing that you can find remotely. There is work worth doing that you can find within your community. It just takes some effort, and it takes some kind of picking up. Again, this is a commitment for me. I mean, I'm going to be with these guys for as long as they will have me around, and for as long as they're around, quite frankly. So if this is some work that you want to do, if you're really passionate about helping people, then start by volunteering. Start kind of seeing what you like and what you don't like. Go to a Special Olympic event. Go and just watch. You don't even have to volunteer. Just go and watch and see. Go and watch the life. Go and watch the love. Go and watch people just happy to be alive. And if you allow that to kind of get into your veins and get into your bloodstream, then it'll take you where you want it to take you. There is help. Public education, the budgets in public education in this country have been slashed to the bone. So if you want to go there and start there, that's how I got my start. And that's how I really networked. That's how I got to know people. I wouldn't know, and I would not have this job now if I didn't spend, the time I did working in public education and getting to know the people that I got to know. I wouldn't be working with these guys. I wouldn't be doing that. It started from the ground, up, and it's kind of come to here. And, I'm looking forward to many more years down the road.
Yeah. Would you say that, what's the level of stress that you experience on a day-to-day basis, 1 to 10?
The only stressful stuff is trying to figure out technology. And there can be some communication barriers that we have to break through. It's really easy when you're one-on-one, but then when you're trying to do things remotely, and then you put some different abilities on top of that, that can be a challenge. That is honestly the biggest stress in my life, is making sure that we can get that connection. Once we get that connection, it's all good. If we don't, if I'm not able to connect with my guys over Zoom, if for whatever reason, it can be a very stressful day. My guys are very routine based. And when something throws their routine off, mental health goes out the window, and it goes out there quick. So we definitely got to hustle. If all that goes through, if technology works, then my life is easy, bro.
Okay. But like a baseline, 0 to 10, what is your work-related stress, general figure, average?
2.
Okay.
3 on bad days, man. No stress. Now when I was a teacher, Like when I was
9,
a teacher,
10.
it was at like an 8 or 9 because I just didn't have enough time in the day. I had
Yeah.
to teach I had to teach 2 90-minute classes back to back, and then I had to go to a meeting, and then I had to sit in a training, and then I had to get ready for football practice, and before you know it, I hadn't eaten. So then
Yeah.
once all that's done, and I finally have time for myself at 7:30 at night, then I hit Wendy's and I get, I eat like crap, and it was a terrible
Mm-hmm.
cycle. Now, I mean, again, my stress level, like I said, man, it's 2 to 3. It's really low, which, we all make choices, man. Some people are willing to deal with a massive amount of stress. I didn't want to do that, man. It wasn't healthy for me. I was killing myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't want to do that.
Yep. Yeah. There's alternate ways to be in this world. You don't
Yep.
have to, we don't have to all be chasing the same thing. Especially now, I feel like everybody is chasing the same thing. Hence the satirical fictional character that we worked on. I think one of the great things of the internet is that we're all connected. One of the bad parts of the internet is that I've just never seen such unification of human desires. It's like we're becoming a hive mind almost, if you will, like a kind of Borg, or like everybody wants the same thing. And you see it with the TikTok generation. Everybody wants to be a TikTok influencer. Everybody wants to make boatloads of money doing the least possible, right? I think it was like, oh, I want to be a millionaire doing nothing. That's like the new American global dream. You just don't hear a lot of people who want to be something else, or who don't, or who have a mission beyond just I want to personally be rich, right? All of the ads are here's how you can make more money.
Mm-hmm.
Here's how you can scam people more effectively.
Right. I'm very lucky. I had a very, very privileged upbringing. I never had to worry about having a meal, fed to me at night. I never had to worry about not having a roof over my head. I was given a lot.
Same.
And I don't want to sit here and say that, mom and dad and, I'm this trust fund kid, because that certainly wasn't it, but it wasn't like I suffered either. I
don't know. I saw that Honda Civic in high school.
Bro, don't be dogging the hatchback Honda Civic with the broke ass subwoofer bumping Ludacris down Jewel Avenue in Aurora, Colorado.
Oh, glorious times they were.
Right. But I mean, there's a point, Ross. I mean, when I was 16 years old, I had a car, man. I thought everybody had a car. Well, no, not everybody had a fucking car.
True.
And I there's part of me that it feels kind of stupid that I was so naive for so many years.
Yeah.
But I could sit here and feel stupid about it, and bitch and moan about it, or I could shut up and go do something about it. And I believe in doing something about it. Life has never been about, for me, trying to make as much money as possible. Now, don't get me wrong, I like making money. I'm good at the work that I do, and I do volunteer a lot of my time. I do a lot of things for free, with these families and doing stuff. But I definitely, unfortunately, we all have to get paid one way or another.
Yes.
And so it's kind of the way that I've done it, and finding that balance. Because it's all different, man. I mean, what's your balance, is going to be different from my balance. And you only get there by fucking up. You only get there by fucking up. If you get everything right, you're never going to learn anything in life. So, I had to make mistakes, and I continue to make them, man. As satisfied as I am professionally, I'm still going to screw something up tomorrow. But it's what I make of it, and it's what we all make of it. And here I go preaching.
Yeah,
preach,
that's good. Baby. That's what you're here to preach, my friend. Preach on. Do you think that there's a path going forward? I talk a lot about remote work or the internet as being a tool. Do you think there's a path for you and what you're doing for people who don't live in your local area, that you could work with people from around the world?
Absolutely. I would love to kind of blow that out and to make it out. I would definitely, need, to kind of know and get connected with other people. But it has been my experience that, Mike, the guys that I work with, personal connection stuff is so important to them.
Yes. Yes.
And even if it's over Zoom, it's still important.
Right.
They prefer the physical stuff. We all prefer being,
Of
we
course.
all, I think people like working remote, and there are certainly things that I've enjoyed about it. But human beings are meant to be out with people. That doesn't mean that you have to make money being out with people. You can make money over the internet and doing all that. You can do all that, but
Right.
they're meant to be out with people. So making those connections with
Just
people,
look at all the late night
and
talk
doing
show
those things.
hosts struggling. Right? You're watching them break down on YouTube with no audience. They're just sitting there like day 400. I'm like, welcome to the club.
Exactly.
Welcome to the
Exactly.
Uh,
Yeah. Sorry, guys. We don't get. Yeah. Now you're with all of us. You don't get to walk around with 1,000
recording from
people
your
cheering
bedroom,
you on
you
every
say?
5 minutes anymore. So sorry.
Yeah. Well, my sound stage is looking pretty good. But I think that's the thing, especially when you post. I mean, I think there's so much. You probably haven't been on TikTok. I've dabbled in TikTok because I've listened to the propaganda from Gary Vee. But you notice that there's so many good things happening, but there is a lot of bullying. And there was an article I read recently that TikTok will only showcase people who look a certain way, that they have people kind of filtered because they want it to be an aspirational platform. So they're only showing content creators on their homepage who look a certain way. It's like just incredibly awful stuff when you read it. And I think there is such an element. I mean, online bullying is running rampant these days. So many trolls and comments, so much negativity being spread through these channels. And you have people putting in so much work, going out of their way, putting in hours of work, creating videos, doing all this stuff, and then just get torn down by some random person. It's just awful, really. But I think the only thing, at least for me, the only thing that makes any of it worthwhile at all, it would be an absolute categorical no if it wasn't for the rare personal connection that you can actually make. Because we're in this world of usernames, people are hiding behind usernames, and so many of them are Russian propaganda bots. All the Trump supporting bots that just flood. It's like, so you don't even know who's real and who's a bot. But the only thing that that gets me through the tough times is that idea that behind some of those usernames are actual people. And some of those people, whatever part of the world they're in, may want to actually interact with you. And maybe it'd be good for you to interact with them. So that connection is, I think, the only redeeming factor. The fact that, somebody in India could make use of your services and that we'd be able to do that. I think that is what it's all about, because the human connection is everything.
It's very big. And you speak of the negativity and the bullying and stuff on social media, and that has a real impact on my colleagues. They see it, and they don't necessarily understand everything they're reading, but you don't have to be literate to look at a picture and know what's going on.
Right.
You don't need to be able to have outstanding reading comprehension skills to watch a video of some really, really gross stuff. And the great thing about the internet is we can see everything, and the worst thing about the internet is we can see everything. So, right. So my guys constantly talk about that negative stuff that you bring up, and it's what we try and do with anything we put on the internet. My guys have had trouble with it because they grew up in the generation. Facebook became a thing when we were in college.
Right.
My guys had Facebook. They had access to Facebook, at age 13, 14, right? Like it had already been there. We didn't have to deal with that. So growing up that way, they've experienced a lot of that negative shit on there. And it's challenging for people who already are trying to battle all sorts of obstacles with communication to then throw this propaganda machine on top of it is really, really a challenge. So in the spirit of our social media, everything we put out is positive. Every single message that we put out there is positive. If that one person in India is able to see something we do on social media or some goofy YouTube video that we put out there that my guys have put together, and it lets them know that they can go and live their best life, if they can see that, then that is the point of it. And if we get one, we've done the job.
Yes.
If we get one, we've done the job. So we just, you stick with that and you keep going. And, we're all in this together. The world is telling us that we're not in this together. That's bullshit. We're all in this together. We're all human beings. And we have a lot more in common than we have, that is, makes us different. So if we can think about that, and we can kind of get together and protect our own, we're going to get through. And if people don't want to come along, they don't have to come along. But that's what we're going to do.
That's right.
That's what we're going to do.
Well, I think that's wonderful, man. Do you accept donations in case somebody listening wants to donate to your cause? Is that something that people can do?
We don't have anything set up in terms of donating to us. I would say if you want to make any type of donation for anything, donate to Special Olympics. Donate to your local Special Olympics. Special Olympics is worldwide. You have a chapter of that everywhere, whether it's in Colorado, California, Australia, China, wherever you're at. Find the Special Olympics chapter, your local Special Olympics, and donate your time or donate your money. My organization, For Abilities, we take care of our own, and we're setting the model and example. If you want to give back, give to Special Olympics. It is a cause well worth your time.
All right, that sounds great. Well, again, man, I just have to thank you for coming on and doing this. It's been an absolute pleasure. Chat. It's always a pleasure. I mean, we've chatted for hours on end for no reason at all many times, but now we have a reason to do it. So that's something.
I appreciate you thinking of me, Ross.
No, this has been, man. Thank you. Again, I just really wanted to set a precedent with this show because expectations are an interesting thing. I didn't want people to think there's a ton of podcasts about rich people or idolizing, it's just like if we could get Warren Buffett, who I actually do admire Warren Buffett, but I would interview him for sure if I could. But, it's like the richer the better. There's a lot of that. But I just wanted to set the tone that success, in quotes, isn't one thing. If there's one thing I want to accomplish with this podcast, it's to help people redefine success and to help people think in just different ways about creating a life.
Yeah.
I guess I kind of have a theory that each of our lives is a work of art. I mean, that's something that my wife and I have. That's a guiding principle of our life, is that our story is our art form. And that's led us to, that's led me to move to another country. That's led me to come to LA with no money and nothing to do. So it's just, I just really want to show people like, hey, there's a lot of lives out there. There's a lot of different stories. There's a lot of people who are rich, who are miserable. There's a lot of people making less money who are really happy. So it's like, what does it mean? I'm sure that there are a ton of people out there who the sound of a 2 to 3 stress level job and they still have a house. They still have a wife. They're living the American dream. Like you're not poor. Like you're doing fine. You have a gorgeous house, beautiful family. And that's great too. Like, is that not success? I would ask.
Right.
So,
right.
And
everybody's got to set their own bar with it, right?
Yep.
Everybody's got to set their own bar with it. And I thought that my life was going to be complete when I became a teacher and I got my license and then I finished my master's and I got tenure and then I got to that top of that mountain and I looked around and I went, well, this isn't where I want to be. And that was terrifying. Absolutely terrifying, because I had spent so many years working towards this to then figure out, holy shit, this isn't what I want to do. But life is about finding someone to spend it with, and then blowing it out as best you can. And you only get there by following your passions. If your goal is, if you're passionate about making money, man, go make money. If you're passionate about helping people, go help people. But if you can keep it that simple, if you're passionate about making content, go make content. Whatever it is, as long as you're passionate about it, go blow it out and throw yourself at it. Because you'll be amazed at what happens. It may not be what you thought it was going to be. But that doesn't mean that it's bad. It just means that it's what it's supposed to be.
Something different. Okay, parting words, parting piece of wisdom. What is, just as a closing remark, what is the smartest piece of advice you've ever received?
Just because you can do something doesn't necessarily mean you should do something.
Ouch, that hurts. I'm just kidding.
You take that so personally.
I'm just kidding. Ben,
I'm more referring to our mutual friends that we may or may not have one or two more cervezas with. That may be who I'm referring to.
Okay. Well, Ben, it's been a pleasure. Thank you once again. Podcast officially over.